Uncharted, one of if not the best action-adventure video game franchises of all time, and I've played every single one of them, except for the PS Vita game Golden Abyss, and whatever this weird mobile card game is. So for my first full-length review series / first reviews on this channel in general, I'll be reviewing every single Uncharted game, and maybe the Uncharted movie as a silly little treat for you.
Yeah, eat that! Haha, eat that!
Uncharted Drake's Fortune was originally released exclusively on the PlayStation 3 on November 19th, 2007, and sold 1 million copies in the first 10 weeks. Drake's Fortune later went on to be remastered as part of the Nathan Drake Collection, a bundle of the first 3 games remastered by Blue Point Studios for the PlayStation 4, released on October 17th, 2015, which sold over 25 million units within the first 3 months. One of the best things about this game, and even more in the rest of the series, is the music. Nate's main theme, in my opinion, is a highly underrated video game theme. Originally composed by Greg Edmondson, it was performed by the London Philharmonic Orchestra. Nate's theme would later go under 2 slight variations for Among Thieves and Drake's Deception, both composed by Edmondson, before getting into some major changes for A Thief's End. Once you get to the main title screen, you get to the difficulty settings. Easy, normal, and hard difficulty settings are the normal things for most people, but if you want a little bit more punishment, I would recommend crushing difficulty, which actually isn't very hard at all. Except, when the Nathan Drake Collection dropped, they added another difficulty setting that was harder than crushing called brutal. This difficulty level, you'll die in one shot, and you can't even use the cover system in the game because you will instantly get shot and die the second you pop above cover. Anyway, the game starts off with a quote from Sir Francis Drake. "There must be a beginning of any great matter, but the continuing until the end until it be thoroughly finished yields true glory." And it's kind of weird how the opening quote from the very first game in 2007 is a big part of Nate's arc in the 4th game 9 years later in 2016, and definitely in the 3rd game. A quote about chasing glory until your death is exactly why Elena is mad at Nate in the 3rd and 4th games. I don't know, I just thought it was a cool coincidence on replay. After that quote, there's a shot of Sir Francis Drake's coffin underwater that transitions to it being filmed by Elena Fisher, played by Emily Rose, on a boat. And this is when we are introduced to our main character and one of my personal favorite characters in any video game, Nathan Drake, played by the amazing Nolan North. And in his first scene ever, he's got his dogs out. For free. Nate cracks open the coffin to find that it's empty except for Sir Francis Drake's diary, which we'll be using to solve puzzles for the rest of the game. Then a couple of boats of pirates pull up and we find out that Elena and Nate don't actually have any permits to be out in the water.
Great idea, but we don't exactly have a permit to be here.
What?
Since they don't want to die or go to jail, they have to deal with the pirates themselves. This is the first time I've ever experienced ludonarrative dissonance in a game. Which, for those of you who don't know, it's when the actions of the characters in gameplay are different than what is discussed in cutscenes. Nate and Elena pretty much have just met, right? Then she instantly witnesses Nate gun down 45 men and then proceed to just leave and act like they didn't just murder 50 people. The ludonarrative dissonance in this game is pretty bad. Like, Nate can beat a man to death with his bare fists and then everybody still treats him like a fun, harmless treasure hunter. After that, we are introduced to the best character of the series, Victor Sullivan, better known as Sully, played by the always great Richard McGonagall, who plays the Silver Fox, CEO of sex, but also the wise mentor perfectly. Nate and Sully discuss the diary and decide to leave Elena on the docks. So Nate and Sully arrive on the main island of the game, and Nate casually pushes a whole boulder off a ledge, Chris Redfield style. So the boulder busts through the ground and reveals a tomb-like area where we have our first puzzle of the series, which also might be the easiest puzzle of the series. You basically push the buttons in the right order and it opens up a hole in the floor. After a bit more exploring, Nate walks across very rickety wooden scaffolding that instantly collapses, and this is pretty much the coolest part of the whole game, and it lasts about 3 seconds. And then you just go back to walking around, which is something I took for granted, as you'll see in a minute. Nate go out on the other side of the cave and find a Nazi U-boat in the middle of the jungle.
You act like you've never seen a German U-boat in the middle of the jungle before.
So Nate goes inside, but not before giving Sully Sir Francis Drake's diary so it doesn't get damaged from the water. He goes inside and finds the boat captain's body completely shredded up. but he also finds a map with the location of El Dorado, the city of gold, on it. But as he's leaving, he accidentally knocks over a torpedo and it starts detonating, so he rushes out of the boat to find the main villain of the game waiting for him. This man is Gabriel Roman. He's the most forgettable villain in the whole series, maybe even in any video game. So Roman and his henchman Navarro take the map and do the villain thing, where they can't just leave them alone, they gotta teach him a lesson. So he shoots Sully in the chest, just like that. The best character of the series is dead. Just then the torpedo blows up and Nathan uses the distraction to run away, where he runs back into Elena, who followed him from the docks, and she rightfully punches him in the face. So to escape, they have to go back through the cave, and this is when the worst part of the game begins. After this point, not a single area doesn't have a firefight in it. But first, Nathan and Elena get into Sully's seaplane to escape, which instantly gets shot down. And this is when you truly start getting into non-stop fights in areas that all look the exact same. All light gray ruins with a little bit of green foliage. Every area is the same as the one before it, and this next one after it will be the same as this one, which is something that they improve a lot on in the rest of the series. So after all the boring shooting galleries, we get to a fun scene of the character that should have been the main villain, because he's actually interesting and memorable. Eddie Raja, the savior of the next part of the game, who just captured Nate and threw him in a cell. Actually weird that they didn't make him the main villain, because he's so charismatic. Like, his VA is so good, and the voice actor of the actual villain is so boring.
I was promised treasure on this goddamn rock, and now my men are dying. They can't even go outside to take a piss without an armed guard, and I have nothing to show for it!
Let him cook!
Eddie leaves for a moment when Elena shows up and tears the wall down with the winch from the Jeep. Her and Nate escape and get chased by Eddie's men into an actually really fun on-the-rail sequence with a grenade launcher, which actually made me not want to turn the game off and skip to Uncharted 2, but this is by far the worst on-the-rail sequence in the franchise. They literally do this in every Uncharted game, except they always improve it, so since this is the first one, it's the worst. And even though it's the worst one, it's still the most fun part of the game. So Nate and Elena almost get away, but they come to a dead end on the middle of a broken bridge when Eddie catches up to them, and he's about to kill them, but then Nate backs the Jeep off of the edge into the water, and now him and Elena are in the drowned city. So you fight more guys in the exact same areas as before, except now there's water sometimes. In the next cutscene, Nate very uncharacteristically wants to give up on El Dorado and use the boat as the getaway from the island. But Elena is the one who wants to stay and find the treasure, so they both decide to stay together for now and go to a boat that they saw across the water. And this is when they hop on a jet ski. Now when I tell you that this jet ski crap made me want to give up on this game so bad, you have no clue how bad and frustrating this is unless you've actually played the game. I had to suffer through this for so long. First off, the sensitivity is completely wrong. You control Nathan riding the jet ski, but also Elena on the back with a rocket launcher. Elena's aiming sensitivity is so slow, but the water is full of red explosive barrels that will completely explode if you just tickle the tip of the thick metal with the thin plastic front of the jet ski. They would be easy to go around, except the jet ski control sensitivity is on the complete other side of the spectrum of Elena's rocket launcher. If you barely tap the acceleration button, you will jerk forward super fast and far. So you have to take a bunch of time to shoot every barrel with the super slow rocket launcher while being shot at, and then just zoom through the rest. So you're being shot at by enemies with no cover, but you can't outrun this because you'll run into the barrels. So you have to take forever to shoot every barrel and enemy. It's just terrible. But just wait, it gets worse. So you fight a few more guys in the exact same looking areas, and then you get back on the jet ski. And then you fight even more guys and even more barrels, and we finally get a cutscene. This game is genuinely so frustrating that I am excited to not play it and get to a cutscene. In this scene, we find out the meaning behind Drake's iconic necklace ring, and it reads, Sic Parvis Magna, which translates to greatness from small beginnings, which can apply to this franchise since this game sucks and the rest are great. Anyway, the more important thing is that the ring is dated a day after Sir Francis Drake's supposed death. After that scene, you fight even more guys. You know what? I can't even remember a single puzzle up to this point besides the very first. This game has been 90% combat, 9.99% platforming, and 0.001% puzzles. It's as if the developers were so afraid of the player being slightly bored for 0.3 seconds that they left the game completely unbalanced. Naughty Dog has a game model of the 3 pillars of gameplay, which are combat, traversal, and puzzles. But in this game, it's like the puzzle and traversal pillars are the size of a homeless person's tent, and the combat pillar is the size of the Burj Khalifa. You walk around, fight more guys, and then we find out that Sully is actually alive. Yep, he got shot at point blank range and didn't die somehow. Nate and Elena go to catch up with Sully to either rescue him or find out if he betrayed them.
We either rescue him, or we beat the crap out of him. Hell, I might just beat the crap out of him anyway.
They go across a bridge that breaks under Elena, and she has to drop her camera to get up to safety. It kind of feels like this was supposed to be a big character moment for her, but it kind of just happens, and then she mentions one time that she misses her camera, and that's it.
Oh, I wish I had my camera.
This is when you get to the worst part in the entire Uncharted franchise, the final jet ski section. And I'm not kidding you in the slightest when I tell you this alone took me 20 whole minutes. I really don't want to talk about this because it has the exact same flaws as the other jet ski sections, but turned up to 11. The already annoying barrels are now flowing towards you while you have to control the terrible jet ski upstream, while the barrels are still flying towards you and coming from behind corners, giving you no chance to shoot them. And even if you do shoot them, they're right in front of you, so you're gonna die anyway. And there's twice as many enemies. Nate and Elena get on land and discover a spike trap with some abnormal footprints coming away from it. Something is up. And honestly, all of the hints towards the twist at the end were my favorite part of this replay, because your first playthrough, you don't know exactly where it's all leading to. So once you get past this, there's one of the better fights in the game, because now there are armored enemies with laser sights that make the game actually challenging, because the reason I've been complaining about the excessive combat is because there's only been like 3 types of enemies. The basic AK-47 enemy, a bigger shotgun enemy, and a basic guy with a rocket launcher. Now there's about 4 new enemy types: a sniper, a laser sight shotgun, an armored version of every other enemy type, and another enemy that I'm gonna keep secret for now to maintain the twist of the story. But yeah, it's nice to get new enemy types this late in the game just to keep it fresh. So you fight and get some practice with the new enemy types, and after that, Nate and Elena go inside the library that Sully is being held in. You run in, kill all the guards inside, and meet up with the main man, Sully. This is also when you find out how Sully survived being shot in the chest from 2 feet away. So when he got shot, the bullet hit Sir Francis Drake's diary, stopping the bullet and saving his life. That decrepit old notebook, that's the same thickness as a composition notebook, stopped a bullet fired from point blank range. I don't know why I'm focusing on this so much. This is not even close to the craziest thing someone has survived in this franchise. In the library, this is also where we get our first puzzle, I think since the very first one. And it's not hard at all. So you just aim all the statues in the correct direction, and you'll have no problem doing it unless you don't know how to read a compass. And that's it. But at least there's finally a puzzle. So the puzzle unlocks a door, and Nate enters a cave full of bodies, and you fight some more of Eddie's men. Nate finds a hole where you can hear Eddie Raja talking, and this is the first time we see Navarro and what's-his-face since the very beginning of the game. Eddie wants to leave and get his deal with Mr. Villain Guy, and storms off about the island being cursed when his deal gets broken off. So then blah blah blah, more climbing and shooting until you meet back up with Sully and Elena, and this is where we get our 5th puzzle. There are 2 more earlier, but they're not good or important enough to talk about. You just ring a bell and pull on some keys. So after that, you get into the series' first big room-wide puzzle, where you follow the Roman numerals of 2, 5, and 7 and avoid swinging bracers. Nate gets to the other side and gets attacked by Eddie's men, when Nate finds something interesting: the corpse of Sir Francis Drake. So they assume that he gave up on El Dorado and died. So Nathan leaves his ring with the body. Nate, Elena, and Sully decide to give up when Eddie runs in completely terrified. And this is when we get the big twist of the game.
What the hell's going on out there?
Didn't you see them?
Oh no. Oh God, no.
We're trapped.
Jesus, what is that?
We're dead. We're all dead.
Eddie, get back here! Oh, crap.
Jake, if we don't make it out of here, I just want you to know, I hate your guts.
Yeah, likewise, pal. Now let's do this.
So my first time ever playing this, I had no clue that Uncharted had anything supernatural in it at all. So it was super cool. But it does end up with the highlight of the game being taken out.
That's right, you ugly kunyuk! Don't mess with Eddie Raja!
Eddie! Eddie, hold on!
Why would you kill him like that?
Nate and Elena escape, but the elevator is not working, so Nate has to go to the generator. And this is where we get another great section because it's kind of spooky, and it made me feel a little unnerved, which is a feeling other than boredom, so I'll take what I can get. So you absolutely mow down a ton of these zombies and get the generator turned on, and find out what made the zombies. So El Dorado is actually not a city of gold, it's a single statue, actually a sarcophagus, and the corpse inside of El Dorado's statue emits some sort of like ash that curses whoever inhales it. And all the zombies you've been fighting are the Spaniards and Sir Francis Drake's crew. So Sir Francis Drake didn't actually die for nothing. He died trying to keep the curse of El Dorado from spreading past the island.
No ship will depart this island. I destroyed them all and drowned the cursed city. A thing of such great evil must never leave these shores. In my final hour, I commend my soul to God. May he have mercy on this unholy place. Francis Drake.
So Nate makes his way back to Elena, but Mr. Forgettable is there waiting and he takes her with him. So Nate follows him, and there's actually a pretty fun fight where you fight both humans and zombies at once. The game is actively getting better the further it goes along. Nate meets up with Sully and make it into the church, and a weird thing I experienced. I remember this fight being like crazy hard with bombs and grenades and snipers, but when I replayed it on the harder difficulty, it had none of that. I only died one time. I don't know, I guess I was just terrible at video games in 2021. So after the church fight, Nate moves the altar and finds the statue of El Dorado, but Mr. Business is there waiting for him. But he makes a silly goofball mistake and opens the statue of El Dorado and gets infected, revealing that Navarro had a secret motive the whole time. He wants to sell the curse of El Dorado as a bioweapon. So Navarro kills the zombified villain guy and escapes on a helicopter with the statue. Nate hops on the statue hanging from the helicopter, and the helicopter crashes into a random boat, where the worst fight of the game happens. It's just a hair better than the upstream jet ski part, but it's still horrible. Basically, Navarro has a few enemies with him, and your cover will easily break. And as soon as all the other enemies are dead, Navarro will run away. And this happens like 3 times until eventually Nate beats Navarro and pushes a whole helicopter off the edge of a boat with the same strength he used to push that boulder earlier. And Navarro gets caught on the rope and pulled into the sea to horrifically drown to death with the statue of El Dorado. After horrifically drowning a man, Nate and Elena celebrate saving the day, and Elena gives Nate his ring back that she kept just in case. And they almost kiss, but then the sex magnet Sully arrives with the boat and cements his Chad status by cock-blocking Nate and stealing a bunch of gold from the room with the statue, and they all ride off in the sunset in victory, while Nate's theme plays and the credits roll. And that was Uncharted Drake's Fortune, and to answer the question of the title, is this game still good today? Hell no! This game is so much worse than I remember, because I was planning on making this video without replaying any of the games, and I am so glad I did, because if I made this without replaying it, I would be singing this game's praises all day. The next video will be Uncharted 2, which I am very excited to talk about, so I thought I would close out every Uncharted game video with a number scored out of 10. So I'm going to be giving Uncharted Drake's Fortune a very disappointing 4 out of 10.